course, beef here. What is going on, everybody? I want to talk about UFC 325 and mostly focus on how pointless that main event was, really, like in hindsight, but also leading up to the fight. It felt pointless. The narrative was the exact same, right? The narrative split. It was either Diego Lopez knocks out the old chinny Volkanovski, or Volkanovski with his superior technique, with his superior footwork, superior feint game, superior everything, really, would just outclass the younger phenom who the UFC clearly wants to knock out, the older champion in Volkanovski, right? Same build-up as the first fight, same exact narrative split, same everything, and the fight pretty much played out to a T exactly like the first fight, just in much less entertaining fashion. Now, I've been hearing a whole lot of crying going around about how that was the most boring fight and all this shit, and like, listen, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong for thinking a fight is boring. That would be foolish of me to try and argue about something as subjective as entertainment. You can find what you find to be entertaining, and it doesn't bother me. I don't really give a shit, right? You can find that fight boring. Did I find it to be particularly entertaining? Yeah, I mean, it was better than like Chimaev DDP or Islam JDM, right? It was more of a contest. There were actual, risks taken. There were exchanges. There were big moments, that kind of shit, right? Although they were few and far between, especially in comparison to the first fight. And I'm left feeling pretty empty because I firmly believe that the only result that would have actually been impactful here would have been a win for Diego Lopez, right? A new champion. Because, like, what does Volkanovski gain beating Diego Lopez again? Like, he was relatively dominant the first time around, right? The big moments did belong to Diego Lopez, but it was clear that Volkanovski was just better than Diego Lopez in general, and he proved that once again here. Why did this fight have to happen? Because Diego Lopez, right, he's so entertaining, he's so exciting, right? Big Brazilian fan base, big Mexican fan base behind him. Clearly the UFC wanted him to be champion, right? That's very, very clear. But I don't understand why push him right into a title shot once again, rather than just letting him build his way back up, because now that's two attempts at the title, squandered both of them against the same guy, right? The aging champion. So now where does Diego Lopez go from here? And I'm getting flashbacks to Sean O'Malley getting the rematch against Merab, like the instant rematch against Merab. It's just such a risky play. Like, you're banking so hard on the company star picking up that win, because if not, then the hype is just pretty much in the toilet, right? That's two chances at the title now, Diego Lopez, and his hype is going to fizzle out now, at least for the time being. But of course, like, MMA fans, sports fans in general, have like the fucking memory of a goldfish anyway, so like all Diego Lopez has to do is come back and put in an impressive performance like he did against John Silva once again, then people will suddenly be okay with him getting a third title shot or whatever. But it's just such a waste of a title fight. Just like the fact that it did play out pretty much identically to how the first one did. All Volkanovski, but then those little moments belonging to Diego Lopez, although there was only that one moment for Diego Lopez in this fight, which leaves me confused as to how people are making the argument or trying to come up with arguments as to how Diego Lopez could have possibly won that one. Like, I didn't hear anyone crying robbery or trying to claim that Diego Lopez won the first time against Volkanovski, when there was actually more of a case in that one because Diego Lopez had more of those moments which would have secured those rounds. In this one, Diego Lopez, he fought more measured, right? He was feinting at range more, he was throwing more leg kicks, but he only had that moment in round 3 where he dropped Volkanovski for a brief moment to one knee, literally the softest type of knockdown you can ever witness in your entire life. Like, it's a legitimate knockdown, but the softest type of knockdown. Volkanovski was not in any danger after said knockdown, right? So to even say that he won round 3 based off a knockdown alone, as if this is fucking boxing, man. You don't automatically win a round because of a single knockdown, especially one as soft as that one. So I'm left confused as to how people are so bitter to where you would even try and reach to try and give Diego Lopez more than a round in that fight. It doesn't make any sense. And of course, I am referring to MMA Guru mostly. I did watch the clip from his stream where he was being quite bitter and callous towards Volkanovski, and just very, very strange behavior. I don't really understand that type of reaction. I get people will try and claim that I react like that to fights, but I mean, I really don't, man. When a fight concludes, it is what it is, right? Whether I find it entertaining or not is a separate issue altogether. But I will always give credit to the man who wins the fight, right? My first reaction is not to complain and whine and say, hey, this not. Like, I understand that the fighter's goal is not to entertain the fans. At least not every fighter, right? Especially the greatest fighters of all time. Generally speaking, their number one priority is not to entertain the fans, is to win fights, right? Islam Makhachev played it extremely safe against JDM, but now he has that second belt, right? Two belts in 2 weight classes, and now he's considered to be the GOAT of the sport by many. And that's what stands the test of time, right? Those tangibles. And ultimately, that's what these fighters are going for. The ones who are chasing greatness, man, unfortunately, their fights won't always be the most entertaining in the world. Sometimes they will have to play it safe. Sometimes their game plan will not exactly translate to the most entertaining fight. And we kind of have to accept that. And this isn't even really an egregious case of a boring fight whatsoever. I don't know, man. I'm left kind of confused by the reaction to this fight. I really think that the fight had no stakes, and that's what made it boring. I think this fight had to be an absolute slugfest barn burner for anyone to really have given a shit about it, because, like I said, there's no fucking stakes here. There was really no stakes whatsoever. It was one outcome or the other. Everyone knew what was going to happen one way or another, same way as the first time. So ultimately, I feel like the lack of interest in general for this fight led to this reaction to the fight, because it didn't play out to be very entertaining, at least not nearly as much as the first one. But let me know what you guys thought about the fight, man. For me, it was pretty good. It wasn't the most memorable of all time, but it was okay. But I do agree that it just doesn't feel like it even happened. You know what I mean? Because I just don't care. I didn't care leading up to the fight. I don't really care now. It's great to see Volkanovski win another fight at his age, right? He's just doing unprecedented things at his age for these lower weight classes, man. Volkanovski, the longevity that he's shown is so impressive, and I was just really happy to see him get the win regardless, dude. I wasn't upset after the fact. Like, Diego Lopez, I was confused as to why he turned down the aggression. He was seemingly trying to go technique for technique with Volkanovski, which is just never going to work whatsoever unless you have that sharpness like an Ilia Topuria, where he has the technique but also that off button and, you know, the footwork to close the distance and the combination punching ability. Like, Diego Lopez, he utilized more calf kicks and that. But even then, man, this fight was arguably even more one-sided than the first one. So I'm confused with that. I was kind of expecting Diego Lopez to be even more aggressive this time around, right? And if he did, this fight would have had to have been more entertaining. And that's based off the first fight. You know, Diego Lopez pushed the issue more. Volkanovski bit down the mouthpiece and was up for it, man. So I don't blame him this time, right? The UFC putting him in there once again against the exact same guy who Volkanovski probably knows the UFC wants to beat him. I don't actually blame him for playing it safe, and a lot of people, including myself, were predicting that this fight would be similar as far as the outcome, but less eventful, right? It was honestly quite predictable. There's no way Volkanovski was going to go out there and bang with Diego Lopez once again, but if Diego forced the issue more, then maybe we would have had to have seen that, right? Volkanovski wouldn't have had a choice in that case. But it is what it is, man. We got what we got. Diego Lopez lost again against Volkanovski. Volk will probably now defend against probably the winner of Lerone Murphy versus Evloev, which has been booked, which, you know, he should have been fighting one of those two at UFC 325 to begin with. And I do respect the fact that Volkanovski mentioned that at the post-fight presser as well, right? He's very, very firm on the fact that he wants to fight the rightful contenders. He wants the rankings to mean something. We want the rankings to mean something, but clearly Volkanovski is at odds with the UFC and what they want.
I've got a responsibility. I talk about having a responsibility as a champion. I don't think enough champions look at it that way. For me, I look at it as a responsibility. There's rankings for a reason. There's people that deserve it. If someone does get in, I'll be active enough to still give the people that deserve it a chance anyway, so I don't have to wait too long. But, I mean, if I'm just going to keep letting other people just cut the line, I'm not really doing my part either. So I'll talk to UFC, see what they say. But for me, again, I'm an easy champ. I understand at the end, Dave, the UFC just push it or whatever, all right, but we'll see what happens.
How could you hate on this man? He's such a respectful champion, stand up, the example for how a champion should carry himself. In my opinion, he is the quintessential champion, fights everybody put in front of him. The man takes all types of challenges, takes fights on short notice, the most risky fucking fights possible against Islam Makhachev off the fucking couch. This man has love handles, dude. He's such an example, dude. People like Khamzat Chimaev can learn a lot from this dude and how to carry yourself like a proper fucking champion. Volkanovski, top 3 goats of the sport. This fight doesn't exactly do much for his legacy, but it's another title defense, right? And that is good for his legacy. It's another trophy to add to the fucking mantle, I suppose, as well. But I really did want to highlight how just stand-up of a champion he really is. And also, big respect to Diego Lopez for going in there. Once again, obviously, you were given the opportunity. I can't hate on you for it. You didn't deserve it exactly, right? You squandered the opportunity, but you went in there once again, gave it to Volkanovski, fell short, is what it is, dude. No doubt that Diego Lopez will fight his way to a title shot once again in the future. But let's move on to the rest of the card here. And the co-main definitely delivered in typical Dan Hooker, typical BSD fashion. This fight was pretty closely contested, especially in that first round, until it became a one-sided slaughter, man. BSD is just such a destroyer. He's only concerned with walking forward, getting you up against the fence, feeding you fucking elbows, getting you on the floor, feeding you more elbows. He's so fucking nasty. I love his style. He's so fun to watch. Just a complete marauder. He completely encapsulates what it is to be a marauder. And those brutal elbows from Mount. I'm not sure what Dan Hooker was thinking, trying to get the fight to the ground. On his own accord, didn't really make much sense. Clearly, that was where he would have been a fish out of water in comparison to BSD. So I was definitely confused with that. But obviously, BSD's pressure, man, it gets to everybody, and it just leads to certain fighters just making foolish errors against him. He just forces those errors with that pressure. So hard to think. I imagine it's impossible to think anything while you're in there with BSD, aside from just trying to stay safe in there. But that first round, dude, Dan Hooker, he was actually hurting BSD with some body shots. You could see they were having a clear effect on him. BSD still leaving a lot to be desired as far as his striking defense goes. But man, so entertaining. And just a complete beast, man. A future fight between BSD and Arman Tsarukyan excites me greatly. As far as Dan Hooker, I don't know what to do with him. I'm sure he'll just be fed to an up-and-coming guy. Maybe Esteban Ribovic wins his next fight, then he gets matched up with Dan Hooker. But, I don't know. At this point, maybe even like a Chris Duncan versus Dan Hooker would make sense. Like, use Dan Hooker as a stepping stone. I'm not too sure, but either way, like Dan Hooker, he's way past it and is shaping up to be a bit of a journeyman at this point. But it is what it is, man. The fight did deliver at the very least. But I almost got this one spot on, dude. I predicted a second round submission for BSD. Got the second round TKO. Whatever it is, what it is. I don't really care too much about the predictions, but it's nice when fights kind of play out almost exactly like how you picture them. It's pretty cool when that does happen. And Ruffy got it done as well as I predicted. I expected a decision victory for him. I thought that Fiziev's chin would hold up, but man, Ruffy, he really is a sniper with that right hand. The way that he throws it, he actually throws it similarly to how Ilia Topuria threw it against Charles Oliveira, where he'll throw that lead hand out as a little feint, but it's also just a quick way to load up that right hand, and then he just throws it like a fucking whip, man. Like cracking a fucking bull whip is really how he throws it. It's beautiful, like the way that he throws his combinations, the way that he throws his shots. Like he has a really clear understanding of leverage and kinetic energy transfer, man. Ruffy is just such a dangerous striker. I totally understood the argument to pick Rafael Fiziev going into this one, just being the more seasoned striker. But I just never had much faith in the style of striking with Fiziev, right? He relies a lot on getting into the pocket and throwing his big looping shots. Like, that was never really going to serve him too well against Ruffy, right? And I get Ruffy didn't look very good against BSD, but just the matchup is completely different, man. Ruffy is always going to thrive in this type of a matchup where he doesn't really have to worry about much of a takedown threat, even though Fiziev could have provided one. He didn't here, and it was really all Ruffy. It was a good fight for the most part, like leading up to the finish, but Ruffy was in control of this one. He looked great. He was fighting off his jab. He was more focused on setting up his shot rather than just trying to clip farm, and that's a great look for Ruffy, dude. Since leaving the Fighting Nerds, this man may have actually leveled up, but then again, it is also Fiziev. He's so small for 155. He looked way smaller than Ruffy in there. I'm not too sure if he's too stocky. Maybe he carries too much muscle. He's too dense to cut down to 145. But if it's a possibility for Fiziev, he 100% needs to do so, because I don't see how he really has much success at 155 in the top 15. It's tough to see him doing very well, especially after that ACL injury. He just hasn't really looked the same. So yeah, dude, if it's possible for Fiziev, a cut down to 145 makes the most sense in my opinion. And Mauricio Ruffy, I'm not too sure what's going to happen next with him, but I imagine he'll get a pretty significant step up in the rankings, considering how he got a step up in the rankings after losing his last fight. But clearly he was up for it, man. He proved that with his performance. Ruffy, he looked leveled up. The man is not overhyped. He's not a hype job. He's such an accurate striker, man. Anytime he will not have to worry about the takedown threat, he will be dangerous against anybody, man. This guy could actually become a champion if he's given the right path to it, but then again, he has to eventually run into Ilia Topuria if that's the case, right? Or potentially an Arman Tsarukyan. if Arman Tsarukyan is ever given a title shot, right? But, I mean, yes, of course, if he has to run into Ilia Topuria, that's going to be tough. And obviously, I would pick Ilia to beat him like 9 times out of 10. I'm pushing 10 times out of 10. But that type of power, that sharpness, that accuracy from Mauricio, Ruffy, the Conor McGregor comparisons are pretty far-fetched, but they're also not at the same time. Like, Ruffy is that type of striker. You can just see it the way that he throws that right hand. It's like it's legit like a bullwhip, man. Not everyone has that type of power. Not everyone can crack like that. But Ruffy can, dude, and I'm a big fan of the guy. I'm a big fan, dude. Ruffy is so fucking nasty. I'm a fan of Fiziev as well. It sucks to see him get put down like that, dude. It was a pretty brutal finish. Got his eye busted up real bad, dude. But, man, great fight, and all the best to both men going forward in their careers. Fuck this fight. Teixeira is not a prospect whatsoever, and if he's considered a prospect, that only speaks to the low level that heavyweight is currently at. These guys suck. Tai Tuivasa sucks. The fact that fucking Teixeira's gas tech was no better than Tai Tuivasa's is just such an embarrassment. This fight fucking blew. I picked Tai Tuivasa. I got that wrong, and I also just don't care, man. This fight absolutely blew ass, and I will speak no more on it. Fuck the heavyweight division. We went from having guys like Brock Lesnar, Alistair Overeem, Stipe Miocic, fucking Junior Dos Santos, Cain Velasquez, to Tai Tuivasa and Teixeira and other miscellaneous fat fucks. Dude, we've fallen off a cliff. The heavyweight division should be scrapped. The fact that we were talking about getting rid of the flyweight division when these guys actually put on bangers, and you have these two fucks violating my eyeballs. Quillin Cell did the obvious thing and finished Jamie Mullarkey in the first round. Yeah, I mean, obviously this was going to happen, whether it be a knockout or a submission. I feel like everyone knew that he would win. It was pretty much a foregone conclusion that he would win this fight. And yeah, Quillin Cell, man, he's very good. He's very, very good. Future champion potential, but he should get the slow push. I don't believe he should get pushed quickly, like a Sean O'Malley, for example. I just don't think that he's that type of a fighter. I believe he should get that slow push because I believe he can organically build his way into the title picture over the next couple of years, man. Quillin Cell passes the eye test of flying colors. The man is clearly extremely skilled at his age, and those fight-over-fight improvements, they'll keep rolling in. And this man, as I said, man, future champion potential, 100%. Billy Alicante got it done. Second round, rear naked choke. Tafa was actually giving him some serious problems in that first round. The power was really, really troubling Alicante, but he is an islander at the end of the day, and he is a dog. He can eat punches all day, and with the superior skill in pretty much all facets of MMA, right? The only advantage that Tafa had here was the power. That's what he had. He had the puncher's chance, but Alicante, yeah, he tied him up as was expected. I mean, I thought he would just beat him by decision, but obviously if the fight was hit the mat, Alicante would always have the advantage. The Tafa brothers they just reject the concept of grappling in general, even though they're MMA fighters, and that's pretty retarded. But yeah, this was the obvious result, man. Tafa brothers, yeah, they lose fights. That's just how it goes. Cam Rouston got that second round TKO. I believe I predicted that exact thing to happen, man. I did figure that the first fight or the first round could be quite competitive, with Cam Rouston eventually weighing on Cody Brundage and the accumulative damage with those close short elbows, right, and the pressure of Cam Rouston. And he really did put the pressure on Cody Brundage. It was looking a little bit dicey for him. Cody was putting on the pressure and he was landing big shots, man. Cam was put in danger here. But then eventually, yes, that snowball effect took place, and he just overwhelmed Cody Brundage, got that TKO victory. Nice win for Cam Rouston. I like the guy. He is a dog, and it was a pretty entertaining fight, so no complaints here whatsoever. Got the pick right as well. I guess that's pretty cool. Torres Finney, man, he got beat up, dude. He's so wide, he's so dense looking, he's just so hilarious looking, man. I was rooting for him just based off that alone. He got beat up. He did suffer a pretty serious knee injury in the first round, which explains why he wasn't really trying to grapple at all. We did get to see some of his striking. It's not the best I've ever seen whatsoever, man. It's not great, but he did display some toughness. But at the end of the day, man, he got beat up pretty good. He got beat up pretty good in this one, but at least he survived all 3 rounds, right? With that knee injury, it's pretty impressive, dude. But Torres Finney lost the O, man. He lost the O. Jonathan Mikalev got Oban Elliott out of there in the second round via submission. I believe I predicted Mikalev by a decision victory here, and it was looking pretty dangerous for him. It actually pretty reminiscent of Tafa versus Alicante as well, where Oban, being Tafa in this scenario, was really putting it on Mikalev in the first round and landed some very nice shots, but then the second it hit the ground, it was just clear, like the massive discrepancy between the two of them and their ground skills. Yeah, Mikalev made very easy work of him when it hit the mat, right? Nice win for Jonathan Mikalev. What a robbery this was, dude. Khan Ofli absolutely did not deserve to win a fight here. Yijia was delivering all of the damage. That second round it should have been a 10-8 across the board. How many times he almost had Khan Ofli out of there. Just complete nonsensical victory. If I remember correctly, Khan Ofli pulled off his last submission after cheating, and then he gets a robbery victory here. Not impressive whatsoever, man. Yijia was done completely dirty. He did everything to earn a victory here. Absolute nonsense from the judges. Kim Sang-wook versus Marfan. I became a fan of both of these dudes, dude. Marfan, I keep saying the word fan, but it's unavoidable when talking about this fight in particular. Marfan is quite good, right? He clearly was just way more skilled than Kim Sang-wook, but Kim Sang-wook is just an absolute dog, man. He has a humongous head, crazy chin. He's so slow, but he just walks forward, just eats everything you got for him, and delivers back whatever he can. And yeah, it was a really fun fight. It was honestly a lot of fun. I know Kim Sang-wook, it probably isn't UFC level, but I still wouldn't complain if the UFC signed him just so we can witness another display of chin like that. And yeah, man, I'm a fan. Like I do like fighters like Kim Sang-wook, just guts and glory, kill or be killed type of mindset. He brought that, but Marfan, he was just better, and he absolutely deserved that victory in the end. Nakamura pulled off an early candidate for comeback of the year. Holy shit, he was really getting outclassed for the entirety of the fight, really. Salah, he looked great, and I think he should get a contract as well based on the performance alone. There's no reason why he shouldn't be signed. He's a lot of fun, karate style, right? But he displayed some pretty good boxing as well. Great movement. Nakamura was waiting too long, but he eventually found that shot. He found the knee up the middle. That slept Salah. Crazy comeback because he needed that shot to land. He was getting almost like shut out for the entirety of the fight. Crazy performance, man, from Salah leading up to that. And that's why I say he got caught, but he proved to be the better fighter in there. And I think that if Nakamura is getting a contract, you have to sign the guy who was piecing him up for like pretty much like 13 minutes leading up to the knockout. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not one for giving out participation trophies, but he proved, like, on the eye test that he can hang at the UFC level, in my opinion. So, yeah, man, great win for Nakamura, crazy comeback, but also great performance from Salah, and I think he should be rewarded with a contract there. And what a way to get us started with some more hometown cooking. Lawrence Louis, I don't understand what he actually did in there to win a fight. He dealt no damage. It was just all control time. In my opinion, Sulang Garangbo, if that's how you say his name, was kind of robbed here, man. He was kind of robbed. I feel like he was the one dealing the damage. He was put on the back foot, you know, quite frequently in this fight, and he was just kind of reduced to pop shotting and, you know, the same combination over and over again, the uppercut, left hook. He kept spamming that, but it was working for him, and Louis was not really able to land much of his own on the feet, really able to deal much damage whatsoever. He won this fight off of control time, which is not how fights are supposed to be scored, right? It's funny how when the hometown guy is getting the control time, that's suddenly the most important criteria, right? This fight, between that and Khan Ofli, it's just such a joke how judges weigh up criteria very selectively. It's just fucking complete nonsense. Sulang Garangabangabo, whatever his name is, in my opinion, deserved to win the fight, even though he didn't look that great either. Like, this fight, like, I kind of felt like I was watching street beefs watching that fight. It just was not very high level whatsoever, but it is what it is. And that just conclude my thoughts on the fucking card that took place 2 nights ago. I know I usually do my recap the night after. I just could not find the time on Sunday. But, man, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comment section below whether you agree, whether you disagree, whatever your thoughts are surrounding the card, whatever your thoughts are surrounding life in general, man. Just let me know whatever your fucking thoughts are in general, man. And as always, I appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next one.